Sometimes life just sucks, and sometimes it freaking rocks. We will discuss all the things from family and real estate to travel and just life in general. So take a seat, or don't, you do you, and welcome to the Lumbattis podcast. Do you want to talk marriage?
Yes.
I kind of want to talk marriage. It was funny. So this morning I told Sweetie Pie, I was like, you should come and podcast with me because one of my other girlfriends was going to come, but she called me or she texted me and she's like, hey, like, are you totally counting on me to be there tomorrow? And I'm like, I could probably get Donna for, another episode. I'm like, so don't even worry about it. She had an event and I'm like, don't miss your event. It's totally cool. So I was telling Sweetie Pie, I was like, you could totally come in instead and fill in. And he was like, what would we talk about? Mind you, this is the first time he has said anything about it.
Yeah, he's made movement.
That's it. I felt like that was one small step forward. And I was like, we could talk about anything. We could talk about our relationship. We could talk about raising kids together. We could talk about, our dynamic. Like, we could talk about so many things. You would be so good. And then he said something. I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so dumb. And he's like, see, that's why I won't come on with you. And I was like, David, what you said was totally inappropriate. Like that we would do this on the show. Like It would be so fun. So fellow listeners, all 10 of you, I'm really working on getting Sweetie Pie here because I do think that it would be really great. But I want to talk today about connections and how we stay connected. And I know because we recently chatted that you had mentioned to me that you and Dan are doing this marriage course or something.
Yes.
Tell me all about it.
Yes. So it's through our church,
Okay.
the Bridge in Chino, shout out.
Hey.
And we just started. It's only been 1 week, but it's a 7-week series and we meet once a week and it's...
Where do you meet? You meet like at the church?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And it's about how to like root your marriage in Christ, but it's a lot more than religion. Like
Sure.
It's not really about that.
Uh-huh.
But Dan and I have gone to couples counseling for many years on
Right.
and off. And a lot of the stuff that I hear in marriage counseling was reiterated in this first session.
Oh.
And they talk a lot about...
Is this session free? Is this thing free, this class?
Yeah, I think maybe we paid $25 or something like that.
All I'm getting at is it's cheaper than a therapist.
Yeah.
That's all I was going with that.
Because they provide dinner and stuff too, and childcare. So it's basically a date night.
Oh my gosh. If I had little kids, I'd be like, sign me up. David would be like, this is so terrible.
Yeah.
So, okay. But anyway, so go ahead.
And the first week they really talked about, are you on the same page? How do you rank some of these important factors of a marriage? And they really fell into a couple categories: connection, friendship, communication, physical connection. And so we ranked them and then we kind of compared, and I found that we were not aligned on a lot of them, but
Sure.
we were on some.
Sure.
The ones that we were aligned on, I was like, I knew we would be aligned there.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't surprised by the ones we weren't aligned on.
Sure.
But then it's about, what do you need, right? So one of the things they talk about a lot, it's not necessarily about conflict. Everyone's going to have conflict in any relationship. It's how well do you repair that conflict?
Right.
And so how do you repair when you see something on paper and you're like, oh wait, you aren't happy with that?
Oh,
right? Like,
yes.
I thought we were good, or whatever it may be. So I don't know what the next week's thing is going to be, but Dan and I talked about going through those items and saying, like, instead of hashing out like why we made whatever number we made for that.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about what do we each need in that
How do
area?
we fix
How
it?
do we fix it? I don't...
Here for that. Yes.
It's the same way I am at work. It's like, okay, do you want to just vent or do you want to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're just venting, I'll hear you once and then let's move on.
Right. Right.
So we talked about how to fix it moving forward is kind of like the next step. But I found it interesting that both our therapists that we've been going to for years and this marriage course, like the foundation of it is, how do you recover? How do you repair? And
I also think, just to like butt in, a lot of it has to do with communication though too.
Yeah.
Right? Because the reality of it is, what I heard was that you guys had really good communication to the fact that you knew where the struggles or where the differences were going to be, right? But And I hardly doubt that Dan was super surprised too. Like, I'm sure he had an idea. So to me, that says a lot about your guys' communication, which I think is humongous, like in any relationship. So kudos to you guys for sure. I also like that you guys were like, okay, we know the issue. So now how do we fix it? To me,
Yeah.
that's huge because I totally agree that people would be like, what, why do you feel that way? You know, I do the dishes and I clean the house and I do all these
Right.
things. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we perceive as love too, right? Like today I was kind of mean and I left the house and I was like, hey, sweetie pie. I told him this yesterday too. And I walked out and I said, hey, sweetie pie, can we be a doer today? And he didn't say anything yesterday, right? So he's so sweet. So he sends me a picture yesterday late afternoon and he has all this fruit that had been cut up. Mind you, what he does is he's in sales. So he'll get an email and he responds to the email and gets to it right away. And then if there's downtime, he'll make phone calls or he'll, but there's downtime. Let's just put it out there.
Right.
And so he went and he cut up a bunch of fruit and got fruit ready to go to Havasu this weekend. And he's like, we have a ton of fruit ready. And I was like, that looks so yummy. That was my response. That looks so yummy because it does. It's all sorts of fruits.
Yeah.
That is not what I meant though, right? Like inside, I'm like, that is so not what I meant. I meant for you to clean up your clothes that have been on the side of your bed since we got home from vacation. And before anybody comes at me, I would pick up his shit off the floor. I truly would, but I don't know what he wants done with it. I don't know it's clean. I don't know it's dirty. We're leaving for Havasu. Okay, we have a house in Havasu, people. Okay, that's not new to anybody who knows us. Why he insists on packing a full-on carry-on suitcase every time we go to a house that we live at. He has gel there. He has deodorant. He has toothpaste, his toothbrush. He has all the things there, clothes, underwear. I don't get it. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't want to unpack it. So he's like, I'm just going to throw my shit in there and zip it up and just bring it with me.
Yeah. Maybe.
It drives me wild. And then when I'm like, okay, it's, the second week of the month, the cleaning ladies are coming. He'll throw it all in there and throw it on his side of the closet. And I'm like,
Gosh, he's like a teenager.
yes, yes, it is. But if I think about it, when he moved out of his house, he was a teenager.
That's true.
So these tendencies, but homeboy has lived with me for 20 years now. So I'm like, I haven't, and Donna, I didn't say anything until this morning. I know this is not what we were talking about, so I'm sorry, we will get back to that. But I go to leave this morning and I looked at him and I said, can you be a doer with something in the house today? And I smiled because I don't know how to get across to him. Pick up your shit. Like, what is happening? Why is it still sitting there? I make the bed every day. My clothes are hung up and put away, and that's fine. I let them sit there. And so I go, and he goes, what are you talking about? I was a doer yesterday. And I started laughing, and I go, you're such a nerd. I said, yes, but David, your clothes have been sitting on the floor for 2 weeks. And he's like, you're so dramatic. And I said, pull out the calendar. It's actually over 2 weeks. So no, I'm not being dramatic. And he started laughing at me anyways. And then Carson wants to know if he can do a million things after school. And I'm literally standing next to his dad. I'm standing next to Sweetie Pie. Hey mom, I just was wondering, can I do, and I'm like, I'm not even going to be home when all of this is going on.
Right.
And I'm like, is that okay with you? And David's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, yeah, that's why. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I
that's
was
like
laughing so hard.
everyone.
I was cracking up this
That's
morning.
teenagers, it's toddlers, it's everything.
I love it. It kind of makes me happy though. It really does. And one day I'm going to miss it.
Sometimes it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming 90% of the time. When
Yeah.
I'm at a conference in Florida and you're calling me to see if you can bring home 3 friends, like, sure, bring home the school. Don't care. I don't care.
Won't be there.
I'm like,
yeah.
text me and your dad together, please. So anyways,
Yeah.
so back to this thing. So it talks about like your levels of communication, your levels of connection and where you are on the same page. Am I allowed to ask you where you guys ranked good on the same page?
I'm trying to think if I remember. I think friendship was the one where we scored the highest.
Yeah.
Like, we like doing things together. We have similar interests. Like, we like to go play sports together. We like to be active together. So those ranked high. And then supportiveness of, what we do and our faith, like, because that is a part of it, obviously, being at the church.
Yes.
So it's like, how supportive of your, faith are they? And we ranked like very high on that because it's like,
You guys are on the same page.
yeah, we're on the same page there and we know it's important. Or like, he goes and plays hockey once a week. Do I love that he plays hockey at 11 o'clock at night? No.
You don't?
He broke his leg 6 years ago playing and he's still
I
playing.
remember that.
And
You had to drive him. This chick threw his tail in the back of the truck and drove him to the emergency room.
Well,
Home.
no,
Where'd
it
you
was
take
like
him?
to the surgery center or whatever. But
Oh
either
my
way,
gosh.
like, but I know that he loves it. I know it fulfills a lot of things he needs. So I'm going to support it. Right.
Right.
Now there are boundaries to that, and communicating those boundaries are important. So
Sure.
if we have something really important Sunday morning and you are going to be playing till 1:00 in the morning on Saturday, you can't expect me to fully support it. Right.
Right.
I'm not going to support stupid ideas.
Well, I'm here for that. And I wouldn't support like 6:00 if it's, every Saturday night during dinner. He plays every Saturday?
No, it's either Thursdays or Saturdays. But the point was, I think, like, he's very supportive of me too, in a way that if I'm like, hey, I want to spend Saturday and go to the spa with my girlfriends, go.
Yes,
I don't have to worry about the kids. I don't have to worry about what they're going to eat
and that's a luxury, because there's a lot of mamas and dads out there who don't get that support.
Right. So that's where we ranked high.
Sure.
And then, there's always like extenuating circumstances for when you rank low on something, right? So
I feel like it would depend on what week of the month they caught me in. Because I'd be like, right now, like, I swear there's a certain time of month that I become a raging lunatic about my house. Like, I nest like a 8.5-month pregnant woman. Yesterday, I had 2 hours in between my last appointment and before we had to get to high school to watch Carson's girlfriend cheer. She's so cute. She did such a great job too. So shout out to her. But I had 2 hours. Do you know what I did? Was I a normal person? Did I go out for a cup of coffee or sit on my couch and relax and catch up on Vanderpump? No. I shampooed the carpet of my children's bedrooms, like both of them. I did Jared's and Connor and Carson's, and before Connor and Carson share a room, by the way. And before I did it, I vacuumed really good, and like I took the this is so crazy. I took the little scrub brush thing and like got in the corners, like where the baseboard meets the carpet, because that's where like a lot of lint and dirt gets. And what happens is that gets wet and then it stains your carpet. And that's why a lot of people have that black ring around on their carpets. Can you tell I've shown a lot of homes? Yeah. So I sat there and I scrubbed that out really good. And then like to the point where I removed everything from their room, aside from their beds and a bookshelf. I moved everything out of their closets. I even did the inside of their closets.
Oh my gosh.
And I pre-treated any stains that I saw or any like lunatic status. What is wrong with me?
That's not, I mean, everyone needs
clearly this week is that week of the month. So I'm just saying, it's the worst.
So it all depends, right? But I think on, in the areas that we were lower on, it wasn't a surprise to us.
Sure.
But it was like one of them that was really low was, do we make time to have regular date nights? And it's just no, we just don't.
Now, does a date night mean just you two, or does it mean other people as well?
It's just us two, or like, but it doesn't even have to be going out. It could be like just spending time at home, not on your phones, or not watching TV, just talking to each other, right? Undistracted. And that's what we're not good at. We have to get a babysitter. So if most of the time when we're getting babysitters, it's because we have something coming up, like a friend's birthday, or there's an event at work that we have to go to, right? So then when it comes time to plan a date night, we're like, oh, well, we don't want to pay a babysitter again, right?
I get that. But you have so many friends. Like, we live around the corner from you. I'll take the babies for you.
We need to ask for help more.
Yes, you do.
But the point being, we had this whole plan, and before the kids, we were really good about it. Every month, we planned a date night. We swapped months. So, like, one month I would plan the date, and then the next month he would plan the date. And it was super fun. We always did really interesting different things, even if it was just going for a picnic or something that didn't cost an exorbitant amount of money.
Sure.
And we keep saying we're going to do it. We keep saying we're going to, like, every time we talk, well, we really need to do this. We really need to set up time for this. We've been wanting to play tennis because we went once and we had so much fun. And then we just haven't made time to go do it again.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, I know it doesn't sound sexy, but we have to plan these things.
No, but that could be very sexy. You can get a cute little outfit. You can do the whole thing. Yes.
But I think a lot of what I've figured just from that 1 week of the marriage course is that you almost have to like automate certain parts of your relationship, just like I automate things at work, right?
Interesting.
I want to
make how?
So like at work, I try to come up with systems that there are just reminders. So I set the reminder when I think of it, but it doesn't mean I have to do it right then because I don't necessarily have the time right then. Maybe I'm on a deadline. So if I have that reminder later, it'll just, automate. It'll just come to me. So it's almost the same thing with marriage, which sounds, again, not sexy, but if we automate these dates, okay, it's going to be this day of the month every month.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Or even with the chores around the house, like you're saying. So I told Dan, whenever we have like boxes that come from packages, because Amazon is my best friend.
Yep.
I'll like take the box and throw it out into the garage. And it was my assumption that Dan would like cut them up, put them in the recycling bin or whatever. And they just have been sitting there.
Because the garage is his space.
Yeah. They've just been sitting there. And I'm like, oh my God, like these boxes. So I was like, so I kind of thought that was like your gig.
Why are you laughing, Billy? I have to know.
Problems are just universal.
That's such a wife thing to do, for sure.
But I was like, I kind of thought that was your gig. Like, you were the box guy. I'm the dusting girl.
Yeah.
You don't dust. You are the box guy. So it's almost like we have to automate. Okay, we have to say it out loud. What are your chores? What are my chores? So that we don't get frustrated with each other with these little things.
Okay, can I butt in? I know I'm good at doing this, but do you know what drives me nuts? And I love Sweetie Pie. We're in a good place. Like, I don't want anybody to take this out of context, but I love this idea. My issue is when he makes the kids do what he's supposed to do.
Oh, I honestly don't care how it gets done. I just don't want to have to remember. Like, for me, it's the weight of having to remember everything that has to get done and then delegate everything. I delegate at work all day long. I don't want to do it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Right?
Okay, but hear me out. My kids have a lot going on too. They are busy. They go to school. One of my kids is in trouble right now, so it happens. They're great humans, but sometimes they screw up, and then I have to bring them back down to ground level. So he's a little beneath the ground level right now. But anyways, like if Carson has school all day and then he comes home and he starts a load of laundry and he's doing his homework, I don't need him stopping his homework to come down and take the trash out. You can take the trash out. I don't need, or doing the dishes. I can do the dishes really quick. I don't mind doing the dishes. That is a chore that all of the members in my household hate. So there are days when I come home from work and I have dishes sitting in my sink. And I think it drives me crazy that I have them sitting there, that somebody just couldn't rinse them and put them in the dishwasher. But instead of harping on everybody for the millionth time, I'm just going to do them really quickly and put them in there. We do have the box thing also. And so I don't mind who takes the boxes out. The kids can do that too. But there are certain things where I'm like, why don't you get up and help me? Hey, David, do me a favor. Come and dry the dishes for me. I love when he dries the dishes for me, because if I'm sitting there drying the dishes or washing the dishes and handing them to him, we're talking, we're conversing. Mm-hmm. I'm not on my phone. Mm-hmm. It's far, far away from me. He has my undivided attention. But 9 times out of 10, he wants to sit and watch TV, which I get. So he's sitting down watching TV, and I'm like, babe, will you come help me dry the dishes? I need to say, hey, I just want to chat with you, and I need the dishes dried. Do you mind drying them so that we can hang out? That doesn't sound like fun. It sounds unsexy, like you said, but the reality of it is I need to be communicating better.
Well, and
because they'll send the kids, and I'm like, I want to talk to my kids, but
like,
not over drying the dishes.
Yes. What's the intention behind it? And it's the same thing. Like, I don't want to have to nag you. You don't want me to nag you.
Yes.
So if we just automate these things, like every time that I'm doing the dishes and you notice it, it would be great if you just came up and helped me dry so that we could have that time to talk, right?
Sure.
You don't want to have to ask every single time. So it's those little things I feel like in our marriage specifically, and it probably pertains to a lot of people.
Sure.
That if these little things were just out of the way,
I know.
Could you make more room for the big things and the big conversations and the fun?
Yes.
Right?
And are there far bigger things than drying the dishes? Of course. But when you really look at it at a nitty-gritty level, like, the little things do add up. And I also have to say, Sweetie Pie's so wonderful. Like, he cooks dinner most nights. So if you
does Dan.
So if you cook dinner, you shouldn't be responsible for the dishes.
Right.
Absolutely not. But there are times, if I'm not working and I'm not like completely exhausted, more times than not, I will go stand in the kitchen with him while he's cooking dinner, and he'll pour me a glass of wine and we'll talk while he's cooking dinner too. So it does work both ways. But there was something that you said about how you guys, you don't just connect even just when you're at home, like as a date night, if you will. Last night, we were driving home from the stunt event that we had at the high school. And I told David, do we have the things to make a dirty martini? I normally don't drink during the week. Mm-hmm. And so I said, do we have the stuff to make a dirty martini? He goes, I think so. I said, okay. So we walked in the house. He goes, you're not changing out of your dress, are you? And I'm like, I am. Is that okay? And he's like, yeah, go get comfortable. It's fine. You've been in it all day. So I went upstairs. I changed. I came down. The martini was ready. He had music on. He had a coaster sitting. It was so nice sitting there,
simple,
having a cocktail with him.
Yeah.
Just him.
Yeah.
And then Connor came down. I was like, what are you guys doing? This is so fancy. And I'm like, fancy? And he's like, yeah, like the music's on. You've got a cocktail. And I'm like, oh, he's like, when do you guys watch TV? And I'm like, it was so nice.
Yeah.
Like, it really was.
And it's, you have to be intentional with that though too.
I agree.
And communicating what the need is, right? So like my need is I need that quality time with Dan. It does not need to be fancy. We don't need to go to a show. We don't need to go on a trip. I just need time. And we have to remind each other a lot because we'll be sitting, we watch Top Chef together every week.
I love Top
Chef.
And
I'll be sitting and just scrolling on my phone for no reason. It's
Me
just
too.
like my fingers just start doing it. And he's like, really? And I'm like, oh, I am on my, like this is, even though we aren't talking, we're just watching the show, it doesn't feel like he has my quality time.
Yes.
And like, let's throw the phone off to the side.
Yes.
So just little things like that you have to communicate, and you have to make time. You have to figure those little things out in order to make the big things work.
I need to work on that. The biggest thing that I need to work on, we are very good at date nights. What we're not good at is what we are not good at is going on our own. Let's say that. We're very inclusive. We want everybody to come. We want everybody to have a good time. I feel bad if I accidentally leave somebody out. Like if I'm just not thinking about it, it's never intentional. And it's funny to me because when we go out, again, we're with a lot of people, but when we aren't, I'm working. I'm on my phone. I'm texting the kids. They want their social lives put together. And I found that on the drive to and from, I need to stay off my phone. So what I started doing was I started driving, because if I'm driving, I won't be text messaging. I just won't do it. So I won't do it 8 times out of 10. So if it's my kids or something like that, I'll call them usually. So if I drive though, David gets my undivided attention. So I started driving a lot, but you're right. There are so many times when that is something I totally need to work on. I need to work on that. I will always be a work in progress when it comes to that. That is for sure.
Well, just your everyday life, it becomes a routine, and it's not like you're doing it intentionally.
So
right?
Moving forward, what are some things, give me 2 things that you and Dan are going to start implementing into your relationship to keep it where it needs to be?
Oh gosh. Well, for me specifically, it's less on my phone.
Okay.
And that's in general, just in life. I want to be less on my phone.
Agreed.
I'm at work. I'm just constantly on my phone or the laptop, and I'm always needed.
Agreed.
On my phone.
Yep.
So my goal is to be less on my phone.
Okay.
And then just planning these date nights. So on Friday, we're going to do that. Have you seen the thing on TikTok where the couples draw each other?
Yes.
We're going to do that on Friday.
My friend Kristen and Joey, they totally did that, and they were showing me the photos. I was dying. That is going to be so fun.
So just like little things. Like we don't have a babysitter, but we'll do it after the kids go to bed.
With a glass of wine or whatever, iced tea or whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
We're just trying to hold more to it. But honestly, I am very lucky because the fact that Dan's even going and doing this marriage course with me is a big deal, right? Like
that would
a
be
lot
a big
of people
deal for
wouldn't
David too.
do that.
Yeah, you're right.
So just making the time to talk in that way is huge. So.
I think that is a big step in the right direction for sure. The fact that you guys even care enough to work on it, I think, is huge. And if you are listening and you are not a churchgoer, find something. There's so many great resources on Instagram and TikTok that I think couples can really dive into and take a look at to see not only what's wrong in your marriage, but how you attribute to that and what your role is. I think if you focus on your role, and if your role is to help your spouse become the best version of them and keeping them happy, I think that's kind of when the mindset shifts, right? Like my goal is to keep David happy. What do I know are things that keep him happy? He's the same thing. If I don't spend quality time with him, I can tell, do we need a date night? I'll ask him, do we need a date night? He's like, yes. Okay. We decided this summer we're going to take 5 days and we're going to Hawaii. Like this was like on a whim. It's just the 2 of us. Like David's like, don't tell anybody. And here I am announcing it on the podcast. No, you're not invited. Like you can't come. And it's funny because I have to tell myself, nobody can come. Nobody can come. It's not even about telling anybody else that they can't come. It's me, because I'll invite everybody.
Well, our time is so limited. So you're like, oh, well, I haven't seen this person. I haven't seen that person.
I know.
If I have this one free evening, I want to see as many people as I can. But
yes.
I mean, Dan is my priority, right?
Yes.
And that has to be what comes first. So I think in general, looking at it from kind of those buckets that we started with, like friendship, physical connection, communication, has helped in a way where it's like, okay, well, we got this friendship thing down. We just need to act on it.
Yeah. Now we need to have sex and go on date nights.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It makes, and it also, okay, I have to say though too, before we wrap this up, you do have twins.
Who are 2.5.
They're toddlers. That does make it difficult. And I know that when my kids were 2.5, I didn't look the way that I wanted to look, and I didn't feel the way that I wanted to feel and stuff like that. And you know what? They don't care. Nicole told me something one time, my team ops manager. I said, it's so crazy to me. Like, David looks at me and he thinks I am so beautiful. And I'm like, really? Like, my stomach looks like I've had kids and I like cheese and wine. And he's like, you did have kids and you do like cheese and wine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't think that it looks gross? And he's like, you had my babies in there. Like, are you serious? And Nicole tells me, Lauren, you have to believe him. When he tells you that you're beautiful, just believe him. And from that moment on, that really changed a lot of things. So now I'm like, fuck it. You like it? Let's do this. Like, I'm in. So I will say, like, as your kids get older and things shift, things will change. Your dynamic will change. What's a priority to him will once become a priority to you too. So I think you need to give yourself a lot more credit than you do. I think you're an awesome human and a great wife. So thank you for talking all things marriage with me today. Have a good week.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.